Imagine a massive frontier that holds the key to the future of national growth. Now, usually we look inland for this, right? We think about manufacturing hubs, digital infrastructure, or agriculture. But here's the reality. One of the most absolutely crucial frontiers for future economic and geopolitical dominance isn't on land at all. It's out there in the ocean. Today, we're going to dive into an explainer on India's blue economy. We're looking at a complete strategic transformation that merges environmental sustainability with sheer economic and security power.
To really grasp the scale of what we're talking about, just picture an area of over 2 million square kilometers. That's India's exclusive economic zone. To put that massive number into perspective for you, it's a maritime area equivalent to more than half of the country's entire landmass. We're talking about a massive, three-dimensional space that is just waiting to be sustainably harnessed.
Now, it's really important to understand that this isn't just empty water. This is critical strategic geography. With a 7,500-kilometer coastline dotted by over 1,300 islands, this positioning acts as a massive anchor for global trade. It sits right at the heart of major sea lanes linking the east and the west. This geography right here is the true foundation of the blue economy. For our concept mastery session today, we're going to build a complete mental model of this strategy. We'll start by looking at the geographic reality of this 2 million square kilometer space, decode the actual policy acting as the operating system, and see how fishery systems are being completely transformed. Then we'll map out the friction between nearshore and deep-sea waters, look at the steps to future maritime influence, and wrap it all up with a final revision to lock in the knowledge. Let's get right into it. So let's start with the big picture and really understand the geographic reality of this strategic frontier. When we look at this massive exclusive economic zone, we have to look beyond just the fish. There is incredible potential in non-living resources out there. We're talking about deep-sea hydrocarbons, offshore renewable energy like wind and tidal power, critical seabed minerals, and even marine biotechnology. But the core challenge we're facing? How do we execute environmentally responsible exploration to actually fuel national growth without risking ecological collapse? To solve that, we need a master plan. Let's decode the blue economy policy and see how it functions as a strategic operating system. Now, you'll see these 7 thematic pillars, but I want you to think of them not as a simple checklist, but as a highly interconnected operating system. It's designed to balance economic growth, coastal community livelihoods, and marine biodiversity all at once. Because think about it. If you push way too hard on coastal mining, you're going to damage fisheries and tourism, right? So you need strong national accounting, ocean governance, and international security to keep the whole system stable. It's a complex balancing act that treats the ocean as one unified economic driver rather than a bunch of isolated industries. And to run an operating system that complex, you literally need a central processing unit. That's where the proposed National Blue Economy Advisory Council, or BAAC, comes in. Because the ocean involves shipping, defense, the environment, and fisheries across multiple different state governments, you need a high-level coordination mechanism. The BAAC acts as that mechanism, bringing together ministry secretaries and domain experts to force convergence. It prevents departments from working in their own little silos and ensures real, outcome-based implementation. Now, let's shift gears and look at the primary living resource mechanism. We are witnessing a massive structural transformation in the fishery systems. The absolute crucial paradigm shift here is a move from a subsistence ecosystem to a market-oriented one. Historically, the focus was just survival, extracting enough basic yield close to the shore for local communities to get by. But the transformation we're seeing today focuses on building sophisticated value chains. It's all about export competitiveness, quality, and traceability, completely shifting the model so that coastal incomes actually rise. The actual policy engine driving this whole shift is the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, or PMSY. This is the flagship program providing the capital and the structure needed to make Indian seafood globally dominant. And it's not just about, buying a few new nets. It's about holistic development. We're talking about modernizing the entire fleet, upgrading the infrastructure like cold storage so the catch doesn't spoil, and deeply prioritizing the welfare and social security of the fishers themselves. However, every system has its friction points, right? And our current model faces a really critical geographic imbalance that we need to unpack. Just take a look at the current reality in our maritime zones. In nearshore waters, we're facing severe resource stress. We literally have too many boats chasing too few fish close to the coast, and that heavy competition risks completely burning out those livelihoods. But then you look at the deep-sea waters, and we have the exact opposite problem. extremely limited domestic exploitation. And as we know, in economics and geopolitics, vacuums never stay empty for long. Leaving that strategic gap open means we are actively losing economic value.
And guys, this isn't just an economic issue. It is a serious matter of national security. Because our deep sea wealth remains dangerously untapped by our own domestic vessels, it leaves the door wide open for large, distant water foreign fleets to come right into the Indo-Pacific backyard. They engage in what's known as IUU fishing, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. When these unregulated foreign vessels sweep through, they don't just deplete the fish stocks. They create massive friction, they undermine regional security, and they cause direct, staggering economic losses.
Now, compounding that external threat is a major internal economic limitation. A significant share of our current fisheries exports continues to be in low-value or just minimally processed forms. Think about it. If you just catch a fish and freeze it, you're making pennies. But if you process it, brand it, and package it as a premium product with higher value addition, you capture the lion's share of the global market. Bridging that gap is absolutely essential for our economic resilience. So, how do we fix this? Let's map out the strategic maritime future and the specific steps needed to build real maritime influence. The policy actually outlines a brilliant four-step evolution to overcome these exact challenges. First, we mechanize and modernize the small-scale artisanal boats for immediate efficiency. Second, we step up and develop a truly modern deep-sea fleet with advanced navigation and safety gear. Step 3 is the real game-changer, adopting the mothership concept. Imagine deploying massive factory ships out into distant waters so the smaller vessels can just offload their catch right there at sea, allowing them to stay deployed for weeks. And finally, step 4, bringing all that catch back to newly built world-class fishing harbors equipped with advanced cold storage and processing. But here's the catch, pun absolutely intended, none of this high-tech extraction matters if the ocean ecosystem dies. That's exactly why massive community-led conservation efforts are baked right into the DNA of this policy. Initiatives like Swachha Sagar, Surakshit Sagar, which translates to Clean Ocean, Save Ocean, are all about institutionalizing behavioral change. It's focused on sustained beach cleanups, reducing plastic waste, and protecting the coastal ecosystem. Because as we scale up our economic ambitions, we absolutely have to scale our environmental protections at the exact same time. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's do a quick final revision to really anchor all this knowledge. Here are your 5 visual memory anchors for the entire Blue Economy framework. First, the scale. Remember that massive 2 million square kilometer EEZ acting as our untapped strategic frontier? Second, governance. The BEAC is the CPU coordinating those 7 policy pillars. Third, the shift. The PMSY is driving us from pure subsistence to a highly profitable, export-driven market. Fourth, the friction. The heavily stressed nearshore waters versus the completely unexploited deep-sea resources. And finally, the future. Overcoming those IUU national security threats by building up deep-sea fleets and deploying the mothership concept. Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with an analytical question to test your mastery of the concept. Think about this. How does a lack of deep-sea fishing capability directly overlap with national security threats and IUU fishing in the Indo-Pacific? Don't just think of fishing as catching food anymore. Think about how economics, technological capability, and border security are perfectly fused together in the deep waters of the ocean. If a nation can't project an economic presence into its own waters, what are the broader geopolitical consequences? I want you to really ponder that connection. Thanks for joining this strategic analysis briefing, and keep analyzing the structures behind the news.